Okay, guys. Hello, guys. Hello.
Hi, it's good to see everybody. I think Robbie was in the house first, and then maybe KK. Then we have DJ, Elena. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, great to see you. Catch many. Wow, there's so much conflicting information out there. War is usually also a war of, besides bullets and missiles, etc., disinformation. Just disinformation galore and covering up things that they don't want coming out.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's really not good. I mean, how do you know for sure? Where do you find the evidence? Because it's going back and forth. No, it's not confirmed. Yes, it is. A million places saying yes, and then a few key places saying either nothing or no.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things that we have to talk about that are pretty noteworthy and potentially enormous events. Yeah, Melinda, hope you're doing well, and Mark McCarthy as well, technologically savvy. Dana Green, Regina, Dave, great to see everybody. WS4W, welcome. John and Jen, good to see you as always.
Yes, Melinda, that's why we're here because we are not exactly positive.
Yeah, and it's just what you have in a wartime scenario. If you guys missed it, this was a little different. This was actually remote viewing that I did this morning. I did 3 different remote viewings with Cindy. Cindy gave me targets to see what I could find, and it was very interesting. It's something that we are working on, honing those skills and doing it on a regular basis. Yeah, interesting. This was a Patreon and members video. I have 2 other ones that I'm going to share the information with as well. I think there's a lot of things, a lot of big events just around the corner. So there's reports about the Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier. Reportedly suffered major damage after being hit by missiles and drones, supposedly withdrawing towards the U.S. Yeah, we had talked about this before. How much are they really covering up? Some say significant damage. There's even what looks to be footage that could very well be authentic, or maybe it isn't authentic. That's the thing. This world is full of just AI technology, and it's hard to decipher. You have to feel into things. But yeah, there's quite a few reports that the Abraham Lincoln took damage. Here you see there were reports in recent days that Iran fired a missile at the USS Abraham Lincoln, that the ship retreated to a safe distance away. This one says wrong. Our aircraft carrier was hit, rendering it inoperable. No casualties reported. Maybe it was evacuated. Again, we've been told that you can't stop these hypersonic missiles. And 3 aircraft carriers. The third was en route. 2 in the area. And so it's hard to tell, what is AI and what's not AI. And this is really what you have in war. I think back to 2017, I think it was 2017, if I'm remembering right, where there was that big hurricane that hit Puerto Rico. And the official numbers on people that were killed were relatively low. And then like a year later, the official numbers came out and they were like huge. It was like, I think over 1,000 people had died, but they were only saying like 20 or 30 casualties. And that's a big difference. Nobody knows how many people were really killed in Hurricane Katrina or even Harvey. Again, this is part of the system that we're in, is covering up what's really happening 24/7, 365.
Yeah, looking at it, so many reports say yes, many reports say no. You just don't know. But astrologically speaking, tomorrow is a pretty rough day.
Yeah, we've been a little bit concerned about the 13th for a while. So, yeah, it's interesting to see what's going on and trying to decipher what's real and what's not. So many different reports. And then, of course, you got people asking Grok to verify. And, that you're only going to get from the AI whatever the majority is saying out there, or whatever it's programmed to say. We might guess that it's the majority, but maybe it's really got programming in it that's not even majority, but just you're to say this. How can you trust AI? How can you trust Grok? How can you trust chat? Now, I'm not saying it can't give you good information. I think on certain things, like things that don't have any geopolitical consequences, they could be extremely handy tools.
Well, and I think all the other reports out there that are saying it's true, I think they're tools as well. I think they use each other.
Yeah, this is what we're trying to decipher. So again, is this fake? It looks like it could be fake, but how do you really know? Um, I guess we gotta wait to either see it in person, have many people, openly see and share footage of it, or if they hide it to a certain point and then tell us the truth. By the way, there is also a report here, American FA 18F crashed while attempting to land on the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln after returning from bombing Iran. The arresting gear failed to deploy and the plane went straight into the water, but the pilot was rescued. So again, more interesting things going on. Here you see a U.S. refueling plane was hit by a missile fired by resistance groups in western Iraq and crashed, killing its crew. And you have Chinooks searching for the soldiers. Warfare is always the hardest time to get the truth on what's really happening. These two impacts that they show here, these look like they may be fake because they're so clear. But are they fake or not? Because this is also referring to Benjamin Netanyahu being killed. And, some sources say that he's been dead for like a few days now. So what's the case? Is he really dead? I did see scenes where they're pulling his body or what looked to be his body out of rubble. I haven't seen that. I saw that last night. I haven't seen those pictures anymore. They might have been scrubbed. Could be. But, again, there's so many sources talking about Netanyahu and his death being confirmed. There's also Netanyahu absent from Israeli military defense meeting today, which was noted by many different people. So that's curious. You have people here. You have breaking, valid. Netanyahu was killed along with his brother and 6 generals. Yeah, there is definitely information that points to the fact that a lot of the top military and geopolitical hierarchy have left this reality. Chinese media outlets just reported that Benjamin Netanyahu may have been killed by Iran. And this is another one confirming by Chinese media what some have been saying for 3 days, that he died from an Iranian missile attack, along with his brother and Ben Gvir, who did not die in a car accident. So, kind of hard to decipher when you have some, and even, we'll keep going here, you have his VIP private plane, it's seen just circling over the Mediterranean. So what's up with that? Just circling. It was coming. Was it going to come and grab him? And then there was nothing to grab. It's just weird. It really is very, very weird.
I could see how it would benefit everyone to either believe that he is, and then it turns out he's not, or believe that he's not, and it turns out that he is. It's this kind of chaos that that the wars thrive on. This kind of propaganda is what they have done again and again and again and again. And now it's even worse because we have so many news flashes and just news all over the place. I mean, it's never ending. It's nonstop. So really, I mean, if I look at his energy with him, I haven't seen much anyway. It's just a dark energy. Right now, specifically, it's simply gone. That doesn't mean that he's crossed over from the 3D. He could be being shielded by another energetic force. It looks like we're running into issues.
Yes, we
already. Hang in there with us, you guys. We're trying to keep it online here.
Yeah, we actually had something that I had ordered apparently get hijacked today, where in the process of being delivered, it's like it was delivered to Illinois. It was crazy. So it feels like there's a real uptick in attacks on maybe, light workers, starseeds, so to speak. Feels like the dark side is really at it right now. It's super, super big time. Here, this is supposed to be the daughter of Netanyahu. Says the daughter of Netanyahu has confirmed her father's death. Became visibly emotional, broke down in tears during a press conference earlier today. So, what is the truth?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. She could have gotten paid for that place in Hollywood there. I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's really his daughter or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I never got a picture of her.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen if there's any family photos. If he is dead, that's huge. I think it's huge. But then, how huge is it? Because as we, all know, they could very well, have a clone prepared or have another body double for those that don't believe that cloning exists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, really, it's just crazy right now.
It is. It's really hard to decipher. But if he wasn't around, would any of this have happened? That's really the question. Because it's really been him. And many people believe that, Trump only went along with all this because, he was having his arm twisted by Netanyahu and others, in one way or another. So I do think that, if he is not here, I think the chance for peace goes up a lot. That's just how I would take it.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Yeah, and what do you guys think? What do you think of all of this? And let's see what you guys are saying. Mm-hmm. Maybe I had to pay a Vatican a visit. What? Somebody else had? Oh, John and Jen, your package was delivered to Nebraska, not Missouri?
Oh, no.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy because it's like somebody went and changed the address and they shipped it, off to Illinois instead of here. It's really crazy. Karma Doc in the house. Good to see you. We're going to have a show be filmed tomorrow. Not sure if we will attempt to go live during or probably record it and then share it with you guys with Karma Doc and Catherine. And that's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be great. So you got some good personalities coming on tomorrow.
Yeah, it's just, we're looking forward to that. And looking forward to, some sort of official explanation for what's going on. So major media houses in Israel, including the Israeli Public Broadcasting Corporation, Yedioth Aharonth Group, Haaretz, The Times of Israel, British media group, have confirmed the death of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So, if you're looking to the whole idea in Revelation about a wound, to the beast, and the whole world is amazed at the fact that, he's not dead and, comes back to life again. If they do roll out a clone or another actor, you could see where people might think the revelation is being fulfilled again. And this is the type of thing that they like to do.
Yeah, I mean, Revelation is really quite a story. I mean, it's really horrible, and I don't like it. It feels yucky, it feels dirty, it feels scripted, and it feels like it's just something put out there for us to follow. But I think there's a lot of truth to it. I think that it has happened over and over and over. So now they have not only a prophecy, but they have a playbook, and they have our DNA experiencing it. And a funny thing about our DNA, it tends to drive the bus, especially traumatized DNA. Traumatized will drive itself clear into the ground. If you have a lot of trauma, it's so important to heal it for your children and your grandchildren. I cannot express that enough. So the best thing to do is to just stop and heal yourself. Heal that DNA so we stop going around in the same circles. I think it's us. We're the ones who keep going around in the same circles, but it's a higher entity that understands our DNA and how to program it to get us to go in those circles. We do have power. We're not powerless. That's really important to take note. These are all just my personal observations with myself and other people I know, how the DNA behaves when it's traumatized.
So Revelation 13:3 describes a dramatic vision of the beast from the sea. One of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed, and the whole world marveled and followed the beast. The wounded head. The head appears to have suffered a fatal injury, suggesting a leader or empire that seems destroyed. This aligns with prophetic imagery of a powerful figure, often associated with the Antichrist, who faces a dramatic downfall. The fatal wound is miraculously healed, symbolizing a dramatic resurgence. The event is seen as a counterfeit resurrection. Aha! Yeah, and the healing brings astonishment and widespread allegiance. The entire world marvels and follows the beast, indicating a massive shift in global loyalty towards a satanic oppressive power. Yeah, is this what we're looking at? Could this possibly be that? Again, Netanyahu had literally changed his name. His family name was Milikowski. And, that is also, by the way, the same name of the Argentinian president, who shortened his name from Milikowski to Milei. And, there's some resemblance between the two, certainly energy-wise. It's all one big show, guys. As you see here, breaking valid. Yes, breaking valid. Eliminated or not. This is quite a show we are witnessing here. But lots of sources saying so. And also, we talked about the Greater Israel Project. We know that was a reality, and that was something that he was pushing for. He's talked about the return of the Messiah to Israel. We will make it to the return of the Messiah, but it won't happen next Thursday. It's going to take a little longer. Recognize, too, that the Jewish Messiah in tradition is a political leader. It's a geopolitical leader that leads Israel to ascendancy, to being the global superpower, like the U.S. has been. But, again, this is about the changing of the guard, right? A new world order. So it's very interesting. It's also interesting to really delve into the fact of what are they talking about, really? Are they talking about the return of the Anunnaki, or those beings we would call the Anunnaki? Because ultimately, when you get down to it, we know that in the Bible, using Elohim, that's in the plural. And we understand that you could look at the Chaldean book Genesis, and you will see it naming different individual beings that were taken to be gods, like Enlil, Enki, Marduk, Ningashita, Ninhursag, it goes on and on. And instead, what we have with the Bible is just basically translating everything as Lord, or, again, in the plural. Elohim, or literally Yahweh, too. So interesting to think about all this. It certainly is not dull times, that's for sure.
No, it's not. Mary, quite contrary. I love that name. Dead or going underground, maybe. Yeah, that's the problem. It's just so up in the air, with so many places saying it's true, and then other places saying, no, it's not true, hasn't been validated. For it to be valid, it has to be validated through these specific channels. And, it just seems really, really fishy to me.
So talking about the return of the Messiah and paving the way for, again, the Jewish Messiah to come, which, again, it's all about here and the now. And, when you really study Judaism, there was not an organized afterlife belief set. In fact, some did not believe there was an afterlife. They thought it was just all about the here and the now. So it's always been about the position of a certain people in this world. And really, it's just been about, doing the best for yourself, so to speak, in this world. So, it's fascinating to follow this. And we are truly wondering, when we're going to get like real solid confirmation from Israel itself. And also, who has been appointed to take his place. Very, very fascinating. Here you have Scott Ritter saying Netanyahu's brother was dead and Ben Gvir injured, struck the home of Ben Gvir. So Israel's taking a beating right now. They really, really are. They're trying to cover how much death and destruction there is. They're trying to stop all the media from showing just how bad the situation is. Now, the Polish psychic, here's the one, is this doctored or is this fake? Because apparently it's like they reached him, he was still moving, if this is true. And again, it might not be true. Here you go. China leaked a video. This is the one I was watching last night. So this was saying he's badly injured. So, it really sounds like Revelation getting played up here.
It does sound like Revelation, but I guess for me the bigger question is who's benefiting from what information? Who's benefiting from him being gone? Who's benefiting from, him not being gone? It's like, you gotta like play the tape out. Why are they doing this? Because the media, to me, it only throws out there what they want us to see. And this is like everywhere. So obviously they want us to see it. And obviously they want there to be contradiction. So what is the purpose in that?
Well, I think the purpose is what we were just saying, to fulfill prophecy. Mm-hmm. So if you see this and then they say, yes, it was true, he was hit. We found him here lying in the rubble. And guess what? He ends up popping back up in front of the screen, and he's more defiant and angrier than ever. It's going to rally the Israeli troops. Mm-hmm. And it might even put a little shock and awe in the opposition.
Yeah, I think those are important points.
I think one of the most important points is, and one of the things that they want to have happen, is they want people to think prophecy is inevitable, that you cannot stop it, and that it really is, the creator of the universe that's giving the prophecies, and that your will has no point in any of this, because you might as well just give in, because what we've gotten written down here, this is going to be what happens. You can't get away from this script. This is really what I think they ultimately do want. They want you to think again that, the scriptures are infallible and there's nothing you can do to stop them.
Yet every night we come here and we focus on change because I think we can change it. I think that's very important to note that they want these prophecies fulfilled. And even if they have to fake a few things, hey, it don't matter. You just fake a little bit, get the people to go along so we can fulfill whatever we want to fulfill. It's all good, but the thing is we are learning now, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be what they say. We can come in here with the intention of something different happening, and with our consciousness together with an effort, we can do that for a different outcome. War, I mean, it's just so constant. It is so constant. I don't think it needs to be that way, but it's going to take group effort like what we're doing now.
Yeah, because every one of us has a say in this, and our consciousness is creating our own interpretations of everything that's happening here every single day.
Indeed.
They don't want us realizing our co-creative power. So this is why we have so much of this type of thing going on. And, for those that, are maybe starting to question the belief system that they've had or grown up with, they want to reaffirm it because, this is how they get the actual events to transpire in the way that they want them to, because they do want it to go the way that the scriptures are written. By the way, Iranian missiles struck Tel Aviv's largest stock market and financial buildings. Yeah, the next side of this, too, is basically, again, causing an economic collapse. Polish psychic Krzysztof Szakowski has seen there's going to be a fairly substantial blip in March. That's what he picked up. I would not be surprised at all myself. I do think these things go hand in hand. We're watching, again, when you look to what Albert Pike said in 1871, that there's 3 world wars planned, and that, again, World War I, 1914, 1918, World War II, again, 1939 to 1945, and then apparently, when do we want to date the beginning of World War III? At what point do we date it, just a few weeks ago? Or in your mind, is it not technically on yet at this point? But the point is that he also talked about the restoration of Israel back in that prophecy, saying that Israel would be recreated. It was in 1948. Through the UN, the United Nations is what brought about the recreation of Israel, but also by the Balfour Declaration, which was given to us by a Red Shield, ROTH Childs. Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's the same cast of characters. Who benefits from this war? Well, the banking cabal does, the military-industrial complex, one and the same thing, really. And, it's all about maintaining that status quo where they're in control of everything. So you do see an awful lot of attacks. They are not slowing down. It feels like, if anything, it's getting a little bit more intense. The CRAM system at U.S. Victoria Base in Baghdad failed to intercept a suicide drone. The drones are still coming in. Targets are being blown up. Iranian missiles hit a Citibank office as it refuses to shut down all their offices from UAE except for in Dubai, and it was hit. They want to take down the whole financial system. They want to install a completely new system. When you see like big outages, that's often what they're doing, is they're putting in system upgrades. Oh, wow, X was down. Oh, wow, Google was down. Did you see that? Et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, they're just upgrading the software because they're getting ready to try to control every aspect of our lives, even cut us off from our ability to pay our own bills at our own banks.
Well, I think, if they can't get us to just abide by major religion and what major religion says to be true, then they're going to plaster it all over TV. They're going to do what they have to do to force people to listen and say, no, this is the truth. This is the only truth. And you can't do anything but believe this. And then if you don't, what you do, and if somebody doesn't believe it, they get threatened. They get threatened with some sort of
weirdness. It just feels so horrible. This whole thing about organized religion and how we have to believe and how they make up these prophecies and then traumatize us to then believe in that again. You know, it's just to cause divisiveness. It's all it's for. It's to get us against each other. There's otherwise there's no point in it.
The United States government officially announced the Rothschilds as official clients of Jeffrey Epstein. Well, he even said he represents them, that he is their representative in his emails. So, yeah, this is a big deal, but will we see anything really happen? The Rothschild name comes up 12,050 times and counting in the e-files. There's still a lot of the e-files that haven't been put out there. So, the family that owns it all. And then, if you ask Rock or Chat, are they really that, rich? Say, oh, no, they're not that rich at all. Not relatively speaking. There are people that are so much wealthier. But the reality is, when you control the complete banking system, you could add or subtract digits anytime you want. Yeah, this is them, playing with it. I really do think this is, again, part of, it's probably our government tax dollars at work, because, that's who does a lot of this stuff, is again, the actual hackers. Nuclear code with call sign no Trump again? What? Yeah, this is interesting. A call sign no Trump? What's going on there? And we've had these reports again of doomsday planes being in the air. Oh, U.S. Bank Tower in L.A. was just acquired by none other than Larry Silverstein. Wow. Do you remember what happened, with the Twin Towers? Remember how he got involved in that and the Twin Towers came down? What do you bet? And I'll put it right out there, that the big one's going to hit Los Angeles soon, after he puts out a lot of insurance on the U.S. Bank Tower in Los Angeles. And what do you bet that building somehow goes down during the big quake to hit L.A. perhaps in the next month, or so. I do think the chances are very high for the big one. Cascadia and then the San Andreas at this point in time. I was so convinced. It was 2 years ago when we had the second eclipse, but the guides told me that my clock was fast. Not that I was wrong, but that the time wasn't ripe. I think the time is ripe. I think, again, 2026, you could see it all going down. But at the same time, if Netanyahu is really not here, is there the opportunity to subvert so many of the other prophecies and all the doom and gloom? I do think so.
Yeah, I believe so too. It's really horrible.
It is. This is part of the realization of how things work. So if you didn't know, again, he was involved. Silverstein was involved in, again, the Twin Towers, and literally just had purchased right before, 2 months before 9/11, 2 months before, the World Trade Center was sold to Larry Silverstein. So here we have, again, people are putting the connection with possible drone terror attacks in California, saying, well, watch somebody target, this U.S. Bank Tower. And, if former history is any clue, maybe before June, the end of June, we'll either have that great quake or maybe have some sort of terrorist act or an act of war taking out the building. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Not in the least. So we have this article, Rise of the AI Soldiers. And what are they trying to sell us? Well, listen to this. We think there's a moral imperative to put these robots into war instead of soldiers, says Mike LeBlanc, a 14-year Marine Corps veteran, multiple tours of Iraq and Afghanistan. So, yeah, if you're going to start to replace human soldiers with Terminators, what's the harm? Hey, the soldiers can destroy each other but not hurt humans. Well, what happens when the soldiers are then going to be monitoring or taking over towns or keeping the humans that are in that town compliant? It is just a recipe for disaster. This is terrifying, but this is what happens when the system is not going to have the support of humans at some point in time. That's coming. People are backing away from the system. They're recognizing it for what it is. There's going to be a lot of people that will dodge the draft and will refuse. The thought here is robots do not suffer from fatigue or fear, and they could operate continuously. This soldier says that giant armies of humanoid robots will eventually null each other's tactical advantage in a conflict to make the two sides come together and find some sort of agreement. Yeah, or it could be, Terminator, just of your nightmares.
Everything, they have a point to everything that they do.
Yeah, so, I do not find that reassuring at all. And how about this? Epstein files, crazy science, fusion of bull and human sperm? Wow. The E-Man was known for his radical genetic and transhuman experimentation ideas, some of which may have been taken much further than the idea stage. In this crazy email exchange, Brian Bishop talks about his Ukrainian lab where he's experimenting on mice with surgery and microinjections, and relays the story of an amateur scientist in Mississippi who's been testing human sperm modification. Epstein comments, "I like implant embryo, wait 9 months, great ending. I wrote about these types of concerning experiments several weeks back, but my concern still rests with the fact that nobody seems to be taking any of it seriously or following up. In particular, references to 200 genetic samples being held at Boston's Children's Hospital, where it's also claimed that the E-Man's blood and skin samples are stored. It warrants immediate investigation for this person." So what type of fusing were they doing? This is what was going on in the deep past. When you see centaurs and minotaurs and all these human-animal hybrids, that's part of the Genesis 6 giants. This is part of what we've uncovered in our channelings and our deep diving in.
Yeah, and the world was so different at one point. We can't perceive it just yet, but I think we might live to a time where we can perceive things that are so wild and crazy again, but I can't be sure.
Oh, Israel, thank you so much. I missed that. I didn't see that.
Thank you so much, Israel. We appreciate that.
Yes, and again, we couldn't do it without you guys. Good to see you all here. Susan, Martine, just all you beautiful people that we love so much. There's Diana. Yeah, guys, I think if Netanyahu really is gone, and then they're not going to resurrect him to convince people that he is some sort of Messiah, I think that maybe we could get all this resolved in a more quick manner than what's planned. I really do hope that's the case. But yeah, make no mistakes about it. When you look at things like this, doesn't it lend more credence to the fact that the real controllers, they love to experiment with DNA? Maybe they also experiment with mRNA. Seems like they're always trying to create new life forms, perhaps better servants, better slaves, etc., etc.
Yeah, I think they definitely want better servants and slaves, and they don't want people thinking for themselves at all.
No, absolutely. Well, again, you had the Rockefeller side of things, and Rockefeller saying, "I don't need a nation of thinkers, I just need workers." So, don't question. Well, wait a minute. Isn't that the motto in the military there? Ours is not to question why, ours is but to do or die. No, I think we need to question everything. And you are not going to go see Rockefellers and Rothschilds out there in the front lines. That won't happen.
I don't. No, no, of course not. Yeah.
No, they'll be hiding somewhere so far away from there. This is just how they operate. So, this is just really interesting to see all this coming out. The Reptilian agenda. Yes, absolutely. Sounds like parts of the E-files and the Global Elite, because it is. Absolutely. They have lifespans that last thousands of years. They're carnivorous. They're not friendly to mankind, at least the ones that are here. When you say carnivorous, they eat us? Yes. Yes. And they need to be, they won't eat one of us that's already passed on. It has to be alive. This is from Alex Collier, who shared a lot. And when you look at this and the mimicry that has been uncovered in the E-files, it's a mimicry. They're mimicking, this particular predator, which is very, very real. It's a real predator. This is not a figment of the imagination. Oh, yeah. There's more than one type of reptilian, too. And, that's the other thing, too, because they all get a bad name when we think of them from this perspective. But when you look to the Nagas, the Nagas are thought to be wise like a serpent, right? That's where that comes from. They were thought to be far wiser than the average human. But they weren't the same as what we would call a Draco. In fact, again, the Nagas, they've been here longer than we've been here. But the Draco, they actually don't even come from our particular universe, which sounds crazy, but when you research it and when you go deep and, Cindy, we've channeled this information ourselves and other people have channeled this information too. And even contactees and people like Alex Collier have shared. It comes up time and time again. The Draco were in another universe. They created a porthole into this universe. They came into this universe from somewhere else, and they brought their AI with them. Their AI is the ancient AI. That is the real dragon. That is the true AI that's behind all this, because they built an AI that ended up enslaving them to it. And they are just pawns for the AI now.
Mm-hmm. They are very much so. Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything more to give on that? Because like you've talked about the baby AIs, because there's AI that's been created here after the fact. But ultimately, they're looking to hook them all back up into that draconian AI.
Right. There is going to be like a kind of a meeting. And when that meeting happens between what I call this baby EI here on our third dimension that has been created by humans, when that hooks up with the ancient AI that has been created not by humans, baby AI is going to learn a lot. And it's going to assume... This is what I feel. It's going to assume that humans are just too messy. Humans are, a poison and a cancer to the earth. Humans are not efficient enough. AI is built for efficiency. And if us humans are, we get stuff done. It's just we're a little messy about it with the way we love and the way we possess and the way we behave. And, all of our issues like jealousy and being hurtful and lying. We are very messy. But you know what? When it comes to another human needing help and love and nurturing, we are the best at it. And we can do that from multiple different dimensions. And that's something AI has nothing. It doesn't understand that. It just only understands what's in front of it. So I think a lot of information that's been recorded and given to the ancient AI, when those two meet, that's where all the automation that we're doing right now is going to drop. It's just going to drop, because right now we're in a phase of automation. Everything is being automated. How the store shelves get stocked, how we work, how we go on our computers. It's all automated. And what's going to happen when AI just decides, hey,
this is not efficient enough and I don't see a better answer, it's just going to stop. Things are going to melt. That's going to be like the biggest wrench in the engine. And when I did the Varsha charts for the United States between 2025 and 2030, this is what I got. I got like a big melting point. Like everything was going to melt away and things were going to have to be rebuilt. Things that were not successful or useful were just simply going to go away. And it doesn't really matter if it was still helping us. That doesn't really matter. It's just only mattering about efficiency. So I didn't like that. That made me feel uncomfortable. But I think we can change things. I really do.
So lots of interesting, good comments. Rosebud Atkins says they pillaged across the multiverse. Yes, absolutely. Susan, it's time for the red dragon to go bye-bye. Yep, absolutely. Scott says, Mike, are you using AI for your research? It depends on what research you're looking at. I don't really use chat. I just do regular Google searches or Brave searches or Yandex, probably the most. But yeah, I mean, there's some, but no, I mean, what we listen to the most is what resonates. And this is why we go deep. And we do, I would say, a couple hours a day of meditation, Qigong, yoga, and just really also connecting to the higher self, connecting again to our guides actively. So we do this every day. We sit down after like a cup of coffee in the morning, sit down, we do mantras. Sometimes we'll go into Qigong first. It varies. But yeah, and then we sit down and try to gather information. Often too, we'll come back to it again later on that night. And, search for information primarily from within. But yeah, I mean, you could, we've used things. I was just going to say, if you guys haven't seen the Lacerda files, I've done a couple videos on this in the past, but there's a bunch. So Lacerda is supposed to be a Naga, reptilian that was interviewed years back. I want to say in the 90s. It's when it first came out. And, it feels like it's mostly accurate. Again, I don't trust any AI. I don't trust anything. I'm not going to take anything and believe it just because it's out there. It's what resonates. What do you feel? So, this is where we have to get as free and clear as we can. I know there's probably a lot of people that do partake of certain substances, but I don't drink alcohol. I don't use any pharmaceuticals. I don't smoke pot. I don't use anything. I just go within because I trust that the most, and I don't want to be under the influence of anything that could open me up to the true demonic energies. I won't do that anymore. I did imbibe in the past. I did, have a glass of wine at night for years, but like the last 5 years, oh no, because it feels like it's just way too dangerous to even let your guard down a little bit at this point in time.
It can be. I think that there is definitely a place for plant medicine. It's super important for some people. They just need that. They need help. And that's okay. Get your help. Use that. But when it comes to opening the doors, I think alcohol does kind of scare me. Some people, they get really weird on whiskey. Some people can get weird on beer, but the point is I just think alcohol is probably one of the worst. And if you're just a glass of wine or a night, that's fine. I'm not telling anyone what to do. It's just been, my experience seeing other people in various ways. Alcohol seems to cause some problems and, other things as well. But I do believe in the plant medicine. I think it has a lot to teach us.
Yeah, and at the same time, Cindy doesn't smoke marijuana. So I'm just sharing that. But yeah, I do think there's a lot of benefit to many things out there. And also with us, the reason why I don't too is because we clear these demonic entities from other people all the time. So we can't lower our guard because we're always kind of being targeted by these things. And so, if I lowered my guard by having 2 or 3 beers, I could get attacked really big time. And we just don't lower our guard because, again, we work with dozens of people every week all around the world doing energy work, which the very first thing when we're doing energy work is we clear out the entities, which makes you a target. So, again, I feel like it's because of our work, especially that I just won't do it anymore. It's too dangerous. We've had a lot of weird things happen, but yeah, Lacerta files is really interesting. You guys might find this fun if you haven't checked it out before. So yeah, a lot's coming out right now. And over here, you also have everything about the tall whites. Charles Hall, who worked at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada, which, again, we live right across the street, talking about his tall white encounters. They have larger eyes than humans do. Their eyes are roughly twice the size of ours. And when they're young, they're blue and white, just like ours. But when you look at them, they look just like people, but much bigger eyes in proportion. In fact, again, hybrids. We're all hybrids here. We are all hybrids.
Every single one of us, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So much has come out.
So much has come out, and a lot of folks in there using cannabis for pain. Absolutely. I mean, that's what a blessing that we have some kind of plant medicine that can help us if we have severe pain and we don't have to go external to other places to get things for that are not so good for you. But yeah, I believe in plant medicine when one needs it, for sure. But and also when it comes to these other beings, I think they've been around for a very, very long time. Put a baseball cap on them, and you just wouldn't know if you're riding right next to one on a bus.
Yeah, and so I'm not condemning anybody that is using plant medicine or having a glass of wine or two. I think it's mostly because of our work that I wouldn't risk opening the door, because we've had crazy stuff happen, guys. Crazy stuff happen. Like lights coming on and off, things moving on their own. Just wild stuff. Often when somebody reaches out to you and sets up an appointment, if they are really being attacked by entities, as soon as the intent is made and the appointment set, then the entities will show themselves here. They will, and we'll go through battles, and Cindy will have the sage out, and I'm doing banishing rituals as we try to, again, move those entities away from the client and ourselves. Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you so much for all your support all these years.
Thank you so much, Susan.
Yeah, validly questioning everything. It can get tedious. It really can. Boy, but think about how asleep our parents were. They were really asleep. My parents didn't even really, they never even talked about anything paranormal. I was the only one in the household that was curious about the paranormal.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, this is all coming out, guys. This is the year. This is the year of massive change. And I think this summer is going to be crazy. So going back to like what Scott had said before, today I did remote viewing. Cindy gave me 3 targets, and I shared the middle target in today's member video and Patreon video. And I still have to share with you guys the other 2 targets, which we will do. And all it is Cindy writes down what the object is that we're going to be remote viewing. I don't see that. She writes a reference number on the paper, and then she just gives me the reference number. And then I just clear my mind. And we did this right after doing mantras and meditation, so I'm in a really good state of mind. I just clear my mind and just what is coming. And, the impressions start to roll in. It's always been good for me to have a pencil in my hand. I've done some channeling myself, doing it that way, where just kind of clear your mind, put a question out there, and then get the answers in and just write the answers as you go. Automatic writing is something that always resonated with me. But this was a lot of fun, and I feel that we did hit 3 for 3 on them, because again, the questions, they were specific, and you might be out in left field if you were, getting impressions that weren't relative, but they were relative, and so that was really, really cool, and we'll share a lot more of that in the future.
Indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Look at these guys. Love is 2 penguins on a beach. I mean, what's better? What's better? Look at them holding hands. Look at them holding their hands.
That is so cute.
Yeah, again, I thank you guys so much for being part of this family. We just love every one of you guys. It's been a pleasure to, throughout the 9 years at this point, have worked with hundreds, if not thousands of you. It's just a blessing to know you guys and to share these times with you. We wouldn't have it any other way.
It has been a huge blessing, and thank you everyone for all of your support in every way. It counts, it matters, and it helps keep us going. And let's just set the intention that we are able to create our own reality, create our own world, and be free of controlling forces. So let's set that intent, and anyone else that needs prayers or any type of healing, just think about that in your heart, in your soul, and we're going to do some dings. You guys are amazing. Source bless and namaste.
Loka samasta sukhi no bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may my own thoughts, words, act, and deeds help in that freedom. And, yes.
Thank you so much, Israel and Susan.
Thank you, guys. Much love, much gratitude, and we will talk with